Hello, and welcome to The Scene. I'm your host, Jeremy Houtsma, licensed mental health counselor, and former scene kid and current scene kid. Today, my guest is Josh Hagquist from the band The Beautiful Mistake. Josh and I had an amazing conversation about mental health, taking care of yourself, and obviously his band, The Beautiful Mistake. Josh is an incredibly humble guy, and I was honored to be able to have this interview with him. So, with that said, welcome to The Scene. So let me just start off by saying yet again, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
It's weird for me to have been doing this, and you're the third person I've had on to talk with people who've had such, like, their music has had an impact on your life in certain different ways, you know.
Yeah.
And everybody's been totally cool. And so I'm really thankful for the opportunity. I just kind of wanted to start off by asking you, I've asked all the other people this, just like, for yourself, what got you into playing music?
So for me, I grew up in a fairly musical home. My mom was a fantastic pianist. She got me started on listening to the Beatles and the Stones and oldies. My dad's not musical by any stretch of the imagination, but very creative. Loved Motown, loved a lot of the older, Buddy Holly, things like that.
Yeah.
Because he was a little bit older than my mom. And grew up just hearing music, whether it was in the car or in church or at home. My mom playing piano. We always had music going. And I took piano lessons when I was a little kid, wasn't super into it, picked up the trumpet in third grade and did that, trumpet and baritone all throughout junior high and high school, did marching band, concert band, jazz band. But then I taught myself how to play guitar in 8th grade.
Cool.
And just learning chords and wanting to play along to punk rock and rock songs that I liked. And so that's kind of where I started.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because I was also, one of the things I was going to ask you is, it seems like there comes a time, especially with the other people I've asked, where like either a certain song or a certain sound kind of hits you in a different way, where you're like immediately drawn to it or immediately impacts you, whether that's song lyrics or it's to me, it's just the power of music. Sure. So can you remember like a specific song or album that kind of took you down a different path maybe, or impacted you early on?
Probably when I was pretty young, it was Van Halen Jump.
Nice.
I remember hearing that song on the radio and just losing my mind. I thought it was the coolest, the most hard rocking thing that I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
It was so awesome. And then I would say U2's Joshua Tree, hearing that as a, junior high.
Yeah.
It just took my mind to a different place. And I think that's when I started putting together the feeling you get and then being transported somewhere else than where you're at when you hear a specific song.
Yeah.
And so hearing that record and then hearing The Cure and Depeche Mode and then on to Ramones and Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins and kind of going through that line.
Yeah.
With each one of those, it was like, oh my gosh, I just was transported out of being a super awkward band nerd in 1990 who's super awkward and quiet and doesn't really know how to function.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have to deal with this. Like, I get to go escape to, and this is, I hate this. This is going to sound super cheesy, but I get to go where the streets have no name.
Yeah.
I get to go to wherever.
Right.
And I get to enjoy the silence. I get to, like Fascination Street, whatever it was, like and I really don't mean to be cheesy with the song titles, but that's what I was able to do.
Yeah.
And it was things like that really took me to another place, and then had that grip on me when it came to the love of music. Like, it blew my hair back. Even as a seventh grader, I can't even comprehend how to talk to a female, let alone like get to class on time. But I heard a song and it blew my hair back.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you can definitely tell on a lot of your guys' records that YouTube plays a huge influence on that.
Oh, totally.
As well.
We're mining that catalog pretty hard all the time.
So Joshua Tree, I mean, how many times have you seen U2 live?
15.
Holy moly.
18. I don't.
Wow.
I mean, I can't even remember.
That's crazy. I tried I tried so hard to get U2 tickets. I was only see them once, and it was in BC, and I skipped. I was in grad school at the time, and I had a presentation to do, and I told my teacher, I was like, look, I've been waiting my entire life for this. Like, do you think I can maybe like skip it? And he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, just go. And I was like, sweet. But I was much older, when that was going on. So it's funny because people, a bunch of other people said Smashing Pumpkins too. Like, that seems to be a pretty recurring theme with like the guys that I've talked to before in the past podcasts, and even myself. I think the first lick that I learned, the first like riff that I learned was off of Today, that little intro.
Me too.
First thing
I was playing that one.
My brother taught me that on the guitar, and I had a very similar type of like arc in terms of like, I didn't do band or anything like that, but I played piano, and then I just did whatever my brother did. So I just, he switched to guitar and I switched to guitar, and so he would kind of teach me how to play stuff like that. So take me to like kind of the beginnings, I guess, of what some of the first bands were that you started, and what were they like?
First band I ever started, I was 16, and it was a punk band. I played bass.
Nice.
And my buddy Jace played guitar, and we both liked Offspring. And this is around when they were getting big, but they hadn't broken yet. So it was Offspring, Ignition. We liked NoFX. We liked Pennywise, the self-titled record, Unknown Road.
Yeah.
We liked Bad Religion, although I couldn't listen to them around my parents.
Right.
They would have lost their marbles. My mom would have cried if she saw the logo.
Right.
We both love that epitaph West Coast punk rock thing.
Yeah.
And so I was getting heavy into it. He was already into it. Our friend Josh had graduated a year before us, but we were all buddies from church and school. And so we started a band called Half Off.
Okay.
And we played one show as Half Off, and then that band became Dogwood.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The same Dogwood that ended up being on Tooth and Nail for so many years and released a ton of records. So that was my first band. I played bass, and I was one of the founding members, technically, of Dogwood.
Nice.
And from there, I bounced around in college and played in a couple of always was playing music in smaller bands, and
then where'd you go to school, if you don't mind me asking?
So I went to Simpson College in Northern California, and then I went to University of Calgary in Alberta.
Okay.
Yeah. And so just, played music, little local bands, and then moved back to California in 1998.
Okay.
And my buddy Dan and he was starting a band, and that was called Ember.
Mm-hmm.
And from Ember came Beautiful Mistake.
Gotcha.
So all of us in Ember, outside of Dan, who sang, then started Beautiful Mistake.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so who was in? So you switched to vocals. right?
Yeah, vocals and
Um,
guitar.
vocals and guitar, but you were playing
Bass and Ember. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. And who did you add to the pack to become the Beautiful Mistake?
So when Ember stopped, it was Steve, Sean, Josh on drums, and me. And we played a couple shows with me on bass and singing, which is very difficult to do. So shout out to all the bands that have bassists as the singer, Rush, King's X, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
But it was the four of us. And then we added John. So John, the bass player from Beautiful Mistake, moved out from Minnesota to Southern California to be in the band.
Interesting. How did you recruit him?
I met him on a message board.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I met him on a message board, and I had posted that we were looking for a bass player and that, we had a demo that just came out and we want a tour and we want to be a real band. And he responded and flew out and tried out, and we loved him, and we've loved him ever since. So crazy. When we got back together in 2018, it was Sean, Josh, John, and myself as a four-piece. But right after that, when we started working on new songs, we invited Steve, who was originally in the band, to come back.
Oh, so gotcha.
Now we are a five-piece with three guitars, because you can never have too many.
That's right.
And it's basically the original group.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was like, because when I saw, I guess, Steve, I was like, who? Like, I didn't know who he was, and I was like, who's this guy? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we think that too sometimes. We look across the stage, and it's like, who's this cantankerous human that we love who just stares at his pedals the whole time and comes up with crazy tones? Like, we have that same kind of feeling as well.
So when did your first demo, like, when did you decide that this was what you wanted to do? Like, you wanted to make a real go at music? And
I think the minute Ember broke up.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no gap. It was Ember's last show. We were already working on new songs.
Gotcha.
And I believe that at our last show with Ember, Dan, our singer, left the stage for two songs, and we played two instrumental songs.
Oh, nice.
That were Wide Eyes, that became Wide Eyes, and then I think maybe For a Friend. And this was in 2000.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wide Eyes is one of my favorite.
That's the first song we wrote as a band.
No, there's two different versions of that.
So there's like 20 different versions.
Because you guys had two different EPs, correct?
Actually, we had three EPs.
Oh.
There's three of them. So do you want the story?
Sure, why not? Okay. Yeah.
So we did the first one ourselves, and we paid for it ourselves. It was 4 songs, and we went to the small studio in Riverside. Scott from Rufio was the engineer at this Love Juice Labs studio. And they had the whole thing where, like, you pay $200 and you get 4 songs and an 8-at tape, basically. I mean, it was pretty basic. But they did so many bands. I mean, tons of bands were going through there. So we decided to do the demo deal. And we did 4 songs. I did the graphic design for the initial EP. We put it out. It was called the December EP. We made up a record label so it looked official. We paid an extra $20 for a barcode on the back so it really looked official.
What was the record label?
Republica Records. And it was this Russian font, so the R's were backwards.
Nice.
And it had a little flag. It looked very revolutionary. Yeah. I thought it was really, really cool. But yeah, that we just wanted it to look official. So that was the first one. And then when we signed to Militia, there was a kind of a side label called Sideshow.
Yeah.
And they wanted to re-release the EP, but they wanted us to re-record it. Okay. And so we did. And it was a disaster. I mean, we went to the studio in Long Beach, and scratch tracks were used as final mix downs. The editing was horrible. The tones were horrible. It was just so poorly done. And
what do you think the reason for that was? Was it just engineering, or?
Well, we weren't there. We had already gone. We had gone out on tour when they were mixing. So we weren't there to approve anything. And when we finally heard it, we were mortified and didn't want it to come out. And they had already done the artwork and printed everything. So they put it out.
That's a nightmare scenario.
So
it's truly nightmarish.
It's awful. And it's really it was really a bummer for us because it just sounds like garbage. I mean, it literally just sounds horrible. And so that's the one with the blue cover, and there's kind of a girl's face on it.
Right. Yeah.
Horrible. I apologize again for the millionth time. But I mean that's nothing. You didn't have any control of that. It's not like at that time you could have sent demos back. You know what I mean? Like you can now. No, we had
send
no
the WAV file
over it, and we said we didn't want it to be put out, so it was put out. So then to right the wrongs of that, we went back again with Sean O'Donnell, who was in Dogwood and then in Yellow Card. And he had done some demos for us, some kind of B-side demos for us for some compilations in San Diego. So he recorded the final one, and that came out in 2003. And we were actually happy with that one. It sounds a lot different. You know, we had some extended intros and extended outros. It's a lot more delay heavy. You could definitely see where we were going with things.
Right.
But yeah, that was the third EP version of a lot of those songs. And it just was a bummer. You know,
it's your first product that you put out, right? Like,
yeah, we were so proud. The initial EP doesn't sound bad that we paid for. They should have just put that out, remixed it, remastered it, and put it out. But again, you know, we didn't know what we were doing. So
yeah.
That's the EP story. So there are 3. I mean, maybe we'll do it again as a joke and put that out. Like, oh, we've got writer's block. We can't put out any new stuff. We're going to re-record our EP.
It's a great marketing move.
10 colors of vinyl. Just cash in on that disposable income of our demographic these days, right?
So the EP. So when Light and Match came out in
October of 2002.
Okay, so you released the EP again after Light and Match came out.
Yeah,
gotcha. I want to personally apologize to you because my band that I was in at the time, we always started off with this intro, and I was like so jazzed about it. Just kind of like an instrumental, and it dawned on me that I had ripped off the beginning of Wide Eyes. Like after I'd wrote it, I was like, oh no. Like it sounds, there's like no real recording of it except for like a YouTube video where we played it. But I was like, because I think I'd been listening heavily to songs. Was one of my favorite songs at the time. And I just kind of snuck in there. And
awesome.
So
you don't have to apologize. I'm actually pretty stoked to hear that. I don't have delusions of grandeur when I look back at our initial run. I'm super thankful. Like, don't get me wrong. Right. I'm incredibly thankful. We all are, of the opportunities that we had and getting to make music and touring around in a van and living our best life. But we were never huge.
Sure.
And we were never the band that was the cool band. So just hearing that, I'm super stoked. No apology needed. Like somebody bid a little bit of one of our songs. Hey.
I was a big fan. For sure. I only got to see you guys once, but it was in a different iteration of the band at the time.
So it was me and a bunch of jobbers, right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Honestly, it was a good show.
Where'd you see us?
Elizabeth, New Jersey. It was at a sportsplex. Yes.
Yeah, Heath put on. I think it was Heath who put on that show. We were with. I think we were with.
I don't remember who the openers
Mock Orange. We were with the Mock Orange.
And then there was one band before that too.
Yeah, and there were like 30 people there.
I know. I felt so bad. I was like, I remember it reminded me of the time that I also saw 238 when I lived in like Tulsa, and they were just on their last legs and they were all sick and they were like coughing, and there was like 15 people there. Yeah. And I was like, I feel so bad for you guys.
It's so funny because the dude who put on that show, I knew him from every show basically we had done in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we had met the Tokyo Rose guys real early before we started touring. And they had set up some shows for us in New Jersey that were amazing. I mean, I think we played with Early November before they got signed, and Census Fail and Folly. And I mean, it was a really cool scene. And
very cool.
They were very good to us. The Jersey scene was awesome to us. And we played Club Chrome after This Is Who You Are came out, before the member changes.
Okay.
And I think there were 300 or 400 people there. I mean, it was a great show.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And then we came back. When I came back with the new band, I remember the promoter pulling me aside and going, "You got to hang this up. You've lost all momentum. Any momentum that you had is gone."
That's super crazy, because the one thing that I remember being born and raised in New Jersey, and even being around like the scene at that time, I had come back from college, and you know, I think for winter break we saw you. Like me and my girlfriend went and saw you guys play. But I remember thinking, Elizabeth, like sports, like who the fuck plays at the sportsplex? Like it like when there were so many other different venues at that time that Birch Hill had closed down.
Yeah, the Rutgers punk rock frat house was where our favorite shows were.
Yeah,
and that place was just a gem. Yeah. Everyone that was there was awesome. You know, that was the place to play. You know, Thursday played there.
Yep.
I mean, all those bands would play there. And so for us being from California, we would come to Rutgers and play this. I think we played there 2 or 3 times, but every time we played there, everyone was so cool. The crowd was awesome. We played on the basement floor and people went nuts. And
That's awesome.
It was so cool for us. And those are the kind of shows that I remember, places like that were just, but Jersey in particular was always a fun place to play, except for the sportsplex.
Yeah.
And that show.
Actually, I think I have pictures from that show. I think I even sent you one of them one time on Instagram.
All right. I'll have to double check.
Yeah, I've got, I think, picture of
Did
you.
I look good?
It's a pretty scene photo. And by that, it's got like the blurs. You know what I mean? Like the light blurs like behind. Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, I wasn't wearing a white belt or girls' jeans or have a swoop haircut.
You might have been.
No, I never did that. I can say for the record, with 100% certainty, I'm glad I didn't.
And I remember going back and from that show, and I remember posting those pictures on my dorm wall. So I mean, like, there's a part of me, like, I'm sure you've done like a million interviews. I don't want to do the same old song and dance that you have to like speak through like all the time. But obviously you guys did Light a Match, which one of my favorite songs is On Building. And for the past like 3 years, I've been trying to get you to tell me what the meaning of that song is, because I almost got it tattooed on me, like some of the lyrics on me. Yeah. And but you're like, I'll tell you. You don't have to tell me. I can cut this part out of the interview. But that song had a really huge impact on me.
No, that's awesome. Okay, so, and I'm not playing the mysterious rock guy card. I'm not playing the I'm a deep brooding songwriter card. I really am not. I've never really talked about specifically what lyrics are, because I'm one of those people, because I'm a music fan.
Yeah.
I want it to be for me.
Yeah.
And now some things are blatant, like
Right.
I just listened to a Ramones podcast, and it was like the song Chinese Rock that Dee Dee wrote. It's about heroin.
Right.
It's about him scoring heroin from China in New York City. Like, there's no ambiguity. But there's so many other songs where I'm like, this means this to me.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of had that in mind. And so I love it when people connect. And I would never want to ruin it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I'm not trying to be aloof.
No. That's I mean, that's part of the beauty of music, right? Like, the lyrics, once you create something and you put it out into the world, it's no longer yours, right? It connects with like other people in other like kind of like different ways.
True.
Yeah.
And for me, our songs do that for me. Even when I write them, they do it for me. And so on East of Eden, I think it was at Furnace Fest, for one of the choruses, or one of the verses, I saying, "You're the maternal saint of total fiction," I said, "You're the paternal saint of total fiction."
Mm-hmm.
So that song can go either way for me. And if I switch that one word, I'm no longer singing about someone else. I'm quite possibly singing about myself.
Gotcha.
And so our songs have taken on different meanings for me throughout, as I get older, and maybe I don't have that fire in the belly that I had about this one topic anymore.
Right.
So I just make it about what I want it to be about.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, like, in terms of, you're in several other bands, or have been, since The Beautiful Mistake, right? Like, there's been a couple different reiterations of different other bands that you've been. I know you've played like for Dogwood.
Yeah, I played the last 2 shows for Dogwood, which was super fun, because it was cool to be there at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then be there at the end, which was a blast.
Yeah.
And I was a touring guitar player for Project 86 for a bunch of years, and Andrew and I are still friends, and his new work is awesome, and I'm stoked for him. And I play guitar in a band called the Stranger Kings from Orange County.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're my buds from, way back in the day, and they're good people, and it's really low impact. I mean, we just don't do very much. And I just started recording my own stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll have a EP coming out this year, and new single hopefully done in the next couple weeks. And so I try I'm thankful. Like, I try to stay active, and I love music, So
right.
Just something fun to do. And we're going to work on new mistakes stuff.
Yeah. So my question is like, how do you delineate what stuff is particularly for Beautiful Mistake, and what stuff like you're going to write, say, in Stranger Kings, or what is it? Saint
Valletta.
Saint Valletta.
Yeah. It's actually pretty easy. And I don't know if I consciously compartmentalize it, but I sit down and I'm pretty intentional about, I want to work on mistake stuff, and then I can just hit the button. And there are things that I may start off with going, oh, I want this to be a mistake. I've got this delay part. I think this would be a cool mistake bridge or whatever. But then it kind of morphs into, well, no, I'm going to use that over here.
Yeah.
And then they kind of flow. So I guess I've gotten to a point where I can kind of figure out what's going to work and what's not. And so, this will be for The Beautiful Mistake, and this will be for Saint Valletta. And I don't feel like I'm giving either one seconds, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because I care. I mean, Beautiful Mistake, I care about it. I love it. Like, I'm so thankful that we still get to do it. But my own stuff is not the same type of music. It's not the same. I mean, you could definitely, people can probably hear guitar parts in that and go, "Oh, I get it."
I can see that, yeah.
But it's way more Echo and the Bunnymen and way less Sunny Day or Quicksand or Hum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sunny Day, when I was hanging out, one of the coolest things for me when I was hanging out with people at Furnace Fest and hanging out with, some of the guys from Hopes Fall was just seeing the other band members or other bands who they were stoked to see. So, you know what I mean? Like everybody was there when Jeremy Nick was playing. You know what I mean? And same thing for Casket Lottery and like Appleseed Cast and all those things. And it was just really cool, like to kind of see that. And that vibe is why I love that scene so much. My video's cutting out a little bit. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I love that scene so much, is because as a musician, when I played other stuff, there was just a lot of pompousness, and I just couldn't stand being in the green room. It was just a bunch of machismo and stuff. And there's just none of that. I thought what makes this scene, or what made that scene in general, was the kind of congeniality of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Furnace Fest was an amazing experience, and especially coming out of COVID, just being thankful that we can all hang out with each other and give people hugs and shake hands and interact like humans should be doing.
Right.
But John and I went and saw Hopes Fall when they played the night before Furnace Fest started.
Yeah.
And hung out with those dudes, and we hadn't seen them for a long time. But they're just great people, and so nice. And saw a couple of the Emery guys, and we toured with them, and they were super cool. Been friends with the As Cities Burn guys for a long time. It was great to see them, and then seeing that respect that we all of the vast majority of bands that came out when we all were popular back in the day. So Hopes Fall, us, and I'm not putting us at the same level of popularity as these other bands. I'm just including them in the scene.
Yeah.
Thursday, Taking Back Sunday, Further Seems Forever. There was a underlying respect for the bands that had come before us,
right,
from our peers and ourselves. Right. So we knew who the Casket Lottery was when we were doing Beautiful Mistake, and we were selling out shows, and they were playing to 15 people.
Right.
And that's not a diss to them.
Right.
It's unfortunate because they're amazing.
Yeah.
And we knew that they also played in Convert or in Coalesce. And we loved the Appleseed Cast, and we loved Mineral, and we loved Jeremy Enoch, and we loved Sunny Day Real Estate. Those, and Jimmy Eat World, those were the bands for us. And so I think we always paid homage to them and had that respect back in the day. But it was, like you said, really cool to see, because Get Up Kids go up, we're all there.
Right.
Jeremy Enoch gets up, Mineral gets up, we're all there.
Yeah.
I talked to the guitar player from Mineral, and I had seen them play in San Diego a couple times since they got back together. And I just said, I just want to thank you for the music that you put out. Your music inspired me to keep making music.
Yeah.
And so I really not only love all the humans that were awesome back in the day, but that we all had that respect for
Right.
those who came before us and those
Right.
who paved the way.
Yeah.
Because Rye Coalition and Boy's Life and Mineral, none of them were selling as many records as the worst of the worst. And we were all popular.
Yeah.
Because it was a wave of just,
Yeah,
where did this come from?
for sure.
But yeah, seeing that, and like even Further, when we toured with Further and then seeing them at Furnace Fest, great dudes. And Jason is just such a nice person.
Yeah.
And getting to see them up there and hearing those songs, and love it.
Yeah,
Really
it's
cool.
to me that has always been. So it's like I like I can be a mark for this band or that band, or if you know that terminology, it's just like,
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's cool because like I could be talking to you, be like Josh is awesome, really look up to him, I get to talk to him, and you'd be like, well, I love talking to like such and such person, right? And so it's like this kind of stack funnel of like passing things, I don't know if that makes any sense, but like it's like I like your music connected with me, so it's really cool for me to be talking to you, and your music was inspired by such and such, and you'd be like super stoked to talk to certain people and whatnot.
Like I met Walter from Quicksand at a Vanishing Life show, one of his little side projects.
So that like, Walter is like the one person that I would really love to have on this podcast.
I mean, I'd love for him to come over right now and just have a pop with me and hang out. But based on his Instagram, he's either doing Quicksand or he's in a kayak somewhere in upstate New York, just being a hippie.
Right.
Like, I love it.
So he's like, he's like the GOAT to me. But just like all his projects, I traveled like 5 hours to go see Rival Schools play at like a little club in Portland, like their last album. Because I was just like, I gotta see him.
Yeah. No, but I met Walter, and I was a fanboy. Like I couldn't even really put together sentences because Slip got me through high school. That was one of those records, along with Siamese Dream. But Slip spoke to me in a certain way, and there was a certain level of emotion on that record, and a little bit of vitriol.
Yeah,
that really spoke to me, and I didn't know what to say to him. I was just like, thank you so much. Like, you have no idea. Like, I really struggled in high school with self-worth and self-esteem and just not knowing my place. And I connected with this record, and this record opened the door for me to listen to Gorilla Biscuits and to listen to more things on Revelation, like Inside Out, and then get into Strife and then get into the hear Victory type stuff, and hear the Youth of Today stuff and Equal Vision and 108 and all those bands. But Quicksand was a gateway drug for me.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot. And when I was at Furnace Fest face to face, I've been seeing them since 1993, and the Don't Turn Away was just huge for me.
Yeah.
And so I got to speak with Scott, and he was so nice. Like, he was just super cool. And Trevor, met him, and I was just like, you have no idea. Like, you're one of those bands that really got me through high school and really helped me find something to identify with musically, and where I felt like I was not cool, but I felt accepted.
Right.
Being a like Caucasian, lower middle class suburban kid, with a good family, but pretty straight laced and pretty nerdy.
Yeah.
You know, and they were both super kind and chatted and were really nice, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a cool thing to be able to talk. And Luxury too, another band that I'd been listening to since, you know, I was 18, and getting to meet them in person. I had chatted with them online a bunch. But yeah, there's so many legends that played that. I don't, you know, Converge. I've listened to them. We've, like, as Beautiful Mistake, they've been one of our favorite bands collectively since the beginning, you know. But you know, Petitioning an Empty Sky, like that came out in what, 97 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they've been one of those bands.
I super enjoyed Cave In playing.
Same with Cave In too. So good. So yeah, I geek out. I'm as much I'm more of a fan of music than I'm a musician.
Right.
You know?
Right. So that must be like a dream though, being able to like be in the same spaces and hang out with these people, and you know, it's just nothing about it seems pretentious at all.
No,
you know what I mean? Like
the bad attitudes didn't exist, and I think Furnace Fest did a good job of picking bands that had quality humans in them.
Yeah.
And the attitudes and the just the stupid nonsense that goes along with festivals usually wasn't there.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience, like for sure. Just kind of like shifting back really quick to some Beautiful Mistake stuff. I really always enjoyed your guys' music videos. On Building is great music video, like some really cool messaging in that. And then also This Is Who You Are. Another great, like, who did those videos?
So Darren Doan did the first one.
Mm-hmm.
He did the On Building video, and his production assistant was Shane Drake. And then Shane Drake did the second video.
Awesome.
And then Shane Drake went on to do videos for Paramore and a ton of other people. And Darren had done a ton of videos for a ton of different bands. So both awesome people. You
also got, I think it like This Is Who You Are. The artwork, was that Derek Hess? No, so the first one was Asterisk Studios. Light a Match was Asterisk Studios, the Clark brothers, and they do Invisible Creature. Okay. They're fantastic. And then Jason Oda did This Is Who You Are, and he was the one who made Emo Game back in the day. Yeah. But Jason Oda is a fantastic artist. He also did Stray Light Run, and he did Further Seems Forever's last record with he did their websites, I think, Bunch, too. Yep. Yeah. And then Derek Hess did the original artwork for the Split EP we did with Edison Clio. Yeah. Yep. I know I know, since like that was like the hired gun part, but those were some of my favorite songs. Like, yeah, I love those songs. They spoke to me in a way at like a time in my life where it was, and that's why I was so bummed to see you guys break up, because I was like, no, I want more. And it's, you know, when I guess like, so you had that transition. When did you know it was time that it was time for things to kind of wind down with you guys? So we got done with a tour at the end of early fall or late summer 2005. So it would have been probably September. And I got home. Everyone else went their separate ways. We were going to kick out. I was going to kick out Rusty, the guitar or the drummer. Mm-hmm. And then that would have left. And I wasn't really sure if anyone else wanted to do it. Yeah. We had a record deal from Equal Vision that they sent us. It was a 3-album deal. And they had been talking to us for a while. And I got home, and I was married at the time. And, you know,
band life is a roller coaster, especially when you're not huge. It's a series of ups and downs, and sometimes you make money and sometimes you don't. And there's ebbs and flows with that. And so she wasn't too keen on me doing music anymore. And so she wanted me to get a regular job. And so I got a regular job, and the contract sat. And it sat and it sat. And I finally called Dan Sandshaw from Equal Vision. And I said, I'm really sorry. Like, I can't do it. I can't sign this. We can't. I just don't have it anymore. I don't have the will or the drive to want to keep trying to find new people and try to do it again. Even though deep down inside, that's all I wanted. And that's all. And even though I made that decision to not sign the contract and stop the band, I basically still only wanted to do music and hated my job and hated my life and hated my wife and hated myself. And that's just me being completely transparent.
Yeah.
I had a lot of resentment towards everyone.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of fizzled. And there was no announcement. There was no final show. There was no Beautiful Mistake broke up. It was just faded away. Is it better to burn out or fade away? Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's what happened. And then, as the years go by, we weren't really all talking to each other at that point when things first broke up with the original guys.
You played an acoustic show at Tomfest.
We did. That was in 2008, I believe.
Yes.
And that was the first time Sean and Armin and I had been on stage in a really long time.
Yeah, because I remember, I've seen somebody videotaped it or whatever, and I remember you just saying, like, just this, by the grace of God, this is like the reason that we're playing together. And
and it took another 6 years for us to get right with each other, all of us.
Yeah.
And we had all done the work to try to fix things in our own life. And
it's really funny you said that, because I don't know if I've told you this. Like, I'm a mental health counselor, so most of like you were talking about resentment, and that's a pretty, man, does that kill things, like creates death in relationships in ways that you don't know is possible, and
it's a cancer.
Yeah.
And I blamed my wife at the time for forcing me to stop doing what I love to do. And it's really convenient to phrase things in that dramatic fashion, right?
Yeah.
Because it takes that person from kind of lame to like supervillain,
right,
in a second.
Yeah.
And then that's in your head, that they're not just being lame, but that's forgivable.
Right.
They're a supervillain who you despise.
Yeah.
And
they're holding you back.
You've justified yourself to despise them,
right,
because they are horrible.
Right.
Like, it's easy to hate Hitler because he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And horrible. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, if you make the person you want to be resentful of into that caricature, then it's easy. And that's what I did.
Yeah. And I think that also comes up with other, I mean, not just with spouses. I remember there's a pretty prominent marriage therapist, John Gottman. And like, he has like what he calls like the 4 horsemen of like what is going to kill your marriage. And this guy is crazy, because he did a study where he put couples into like a living space and just observed them. And with about, I think like something like 91 to 92% accuracy within the first 24 hours, he could make a prediction about whether or not they were gonna get divorced. And like it was freaking crazy. And like so him and his wife started this kind of like methodology for treatment and things like that. And it always came down to defensiveness, resentment, or at least two of them. And being a therapist, defensiveness is like the number one killer of all conversation. The moment you get defensive, the moment like, and for myself, this is not just me, like this happens all the time, like within my own sphere as well. You're trying to connect and then you feel attacked or something, right? And then it's like conversation over, your vulnerability's done.
Have you ever heard that military term fire for effect?
No.
Okay, so it's a military term where you're just fire for effect. Like you want to create the impression that there's a multitude of people that are shooting at you. Mm-hmm. The enemy is going to be scared. Fire for effect. Like just make it impactful.
Yeah.
And that's what I would do. That was my go-to is she'd call me out on something. And my reaction to that would be to overwhelm her with bravado and level of like decibel level and just impact, like fire for effect. Like I'm just going you're going to come at me and I'm defensive. So my defense mechanism is I'm going to come back and just go over the top of it. Not in a physical way.
Sure. Yeah.
But just in I would overreact at the slightest thing, thinking that I could just quell or squelch whatever was brought up.
Yeah.
What a bad, and I mean, it took me going to therapy to really nail it.
Follies of youth, right? Like hindsight's 2020, and after something just relationships, friendships, like disillusion happens, you're like totally. Kind of like look back on all that stuff.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I like to do on this podcast is just talk about some mental health aspects, because I know that with bands, touring life is not easy. Like, I mean, you're essentially in a family, whether it be dysfunctional or functional, most of the time dysfunctional, because you're all either, have different opinions or, all that stuff. And you're stuck in a van. A lot of the time, maybe you don't have a tour budget, or you're not, like you're living off your merch sales or something like that. And I always thought to myself, I was like, man, it would be so awesome to go on tour. And I had friends who were in a band and they went on tour and they were like, it was awful. They were signed, they were signed to EMI at the time.
Yeah.
And they were just like, there's a whole business aspect of this that is just beyond us. We just want to play, type of thing. And it caused a lot of friction. And I'm wondering if that had seeped into the dissolution of the band. Just
totally. I mean, it's difficult when you're not getting along with people. People aren't meant to live 2 feet from each other 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Getting to do the band, at least you have an outlet, an expression for an hour or 45 minutes every night. But then where's your expression or outlet when you're not on stage? And it becomes drinking.
Right.
Or it becomes, whatever you're filling that void with.
Yeah.
But it's tough. You factor in money and bills and families and marriages and relationships that are strained by distance. And it's definitely the most fun you could ever have.
Sure. Yeah.
And the worst time you could ever have mixed into one. It's a tough life, and I applaud bands that are able to do it and have that interpersonal and emotional maturity to be able to handle it and get along with each other and have lives outside of that. And but it's a tough thing, and some bands make it work and some don't. And I don't think we were at the place, when you're in your 20s, I didn't know what I was doing with life. And so, it makes it tough to do, but it was a blast. Like, I regret how I treated people, and I can have regrets on how I acted in certain situations, but touring was awesome.
Yeah.
Touring was so much fun, and getting to see the world for free,
Yeah. What was your favorite tour you did? Like, what was your favorite band, I guess, that you toured with?
Hope's Fall would be up there. Elliot, seeing them play every night was a treat, just because we looked up to them so much.
Yeah.
And they were on just another level. And one of those bands that just horribly underappreciated. They should have been huge. Everyone should have bought their records because they were so amazing.
Falls Cathedrals is amazing.
Epic. And so that was probably our favorite. Those were probably our two favorites. Just a really good time on those tours.
Yeah.
We had some fun tours with Census Fail and Monine. Really, the guys in Census Fail, Buddy and everybody, they were always really nice to us, always really kind, and just were genuinely cool to us. Same with Monine, Kenny and everybody. They're the nicest people, not pretentious, really good to their fans. So
Census Fail, they must have been really young when you were
Census Fail?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. They were just babies. They were babies.
They buddies from the town, like right next to me, in Ridgewood. But they also had a reputation. So,
it's funny. Like I knew that they had a reputation, and I knew that they rubbed a lot of people the wrong way back in the day. But I'll tell you this about them. We were on a tour with Brand New, and we were direct support. So we were playing before Brand New, and Census Fail was playing before us.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple shows into that tour, it was pretty clear that Census Fail was not only outselling us, but their popularity we paled in comparison. They were clearly the more popular band. But they handled that with so much grace. And they did give us some respect, because we've been around, long.
Yeah.
We put in the time. And I'll never forget that they were really cool. And then they did a headlining tour the next year and invited us out, and we did that, and we were support for them.
Oh, sweet.
And they were fantastic. But that tour, for being young people in the band, it was just really, they were very, very gracious to us.
That's awesome.
And didn't pull the manager card, and didn't pull we're bigger. They were always a band that worked really hard, and we respected them for that. And we also appreciated them and the way they treated us, always with respect, always with kindness. They were really cool to us.
Yeah.
So they're one of those bands that, I think I follow Buddy on, I don't keep in touch. I'm not good at keeping in touch. But yeah, I would say that about them, that, maybe they were partying a lot and pissing people off and pissing on everybody else. But my experience with them, I have the utmost respect for the way they handled themselves on that, and always will appreciate it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I got to get going soon. So I just want to ask you a couple more questions.
All right. Make them good.
Yeah. What's your, do you drink?
I don't really that much anymore.
Okay.
I don't have I am not sober, and I am not straight edge. I I'd rather have a Dr. Pepper
Sure.
or coffee.
Yeah.
That's just where I'm at.
Right. So I was going to ask you what your favorite Stone beer was while you were working there.
When I was there, it was smoked porter.
Yeah.
They use peat smoked malt, and I if I'm going to drink Scotch, I like peaty Scotch. So
gotcha. Like what are you up to now? What do you love doing?
I love to hike.
I've seen that.
I love to hike, and I love to go explore remote places that have some historical significance or geological significance, or a little bit of both. I like taking my Forerunner out and going off-roading with it and camping in the back. I have a camp set up in the back, and
yeah,
I can sustain myself off the grid for a little while, which is nice. I still love making music. And I love my job. I work for a company called Prana, and we make outdoor clothing, the best outdoor clothing. But it's all sustainably made and ethically sourced. And so I appreciate that aspect of that. So, yeah, I'm stoked. Like I just love to be outside and take pictures and see cool stuff. And it's not too crazy.
Yeah. Last question. Favorite tattoo you have?
All right. This is going to be a toss up here. I can't pick one. I don't regret any.
That's what they all say.
I don't regret any of it. My favorite tattoo is the tattoo of my pug, Audrey, who passed away. And Audrey was the most wonderful dog ever. And I love that dog. And so I have her picture. It's done in a traditional way, but my tattoo artist took her picture and made it a traditional tattoo. And then it has her name and a banner. And then instead of crossbones, it has two greenies, the dog treats cross.
Nice.
And some flowers around it. But that's my favorite tattoo. And all
right, man. Cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is such an awesome experience for me, and you've been so gracious. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. I love it if people love what we did and connected to it. But I'm a normal dude.
Yeah.
I work. I'm very thankful for what I got to do and what I still get to do. But like, I'm very humbled, absolutely humbled, to be able to talk to people like you, and you're doing something cool. And that's awesome.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good weekend.
Great one. You too.
Yeah. Bye.
I'd like to thank my guest again, Josh Hagquist, for taking the time out to talk to me. Welcome to the Scene is produced and edited by me, Jeremy Houtsma. Original intro and outro music by me, Jeremy Houtsma. If you like what you hear, you can find us on all major streaming platforms, as well as @TheSceneCast on Instagram. See you next time.